Welcome to I Love My Club By, with me, your host, Seamus Barry, the podcast that gives you the insight into our local games of hurling and camogie. Join us as we take a look at some of the characters around the county on I Love My Club By. That is correct, folks. You are very welcome along to this week's I Love My Club By. This week's podcast is in association with Elite Recovery. And of course, we have a 20% off voucher for your first visit. In order to be in a chance to win that, just leave a comment of who your club is in Waterford on our YouTube channel. And that's at I Loves My Club By. And of course, you'll find us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook as well. And Elite Recovery, of course, set up by Mount Sign's very own John Kennedy. And that is based in Waterford City, so pop on over to Instagram and you'll find Elite Recovery. Of course, they specialise in all recovery in the GAA in terms of cryo pools, jacuzzi, and also your massage area. So get in contact with Elite Recovery. Find them on Instagram. Of course, great to support a local cause, especially a GAA one. This week's show, we have a packed show. I spoke to the very one and only Mr. Paul Carley from Passage East, the manager, of course, of current team Passage, and they are playing De La Salle this round this weekend. I also got a chance to catch up with Gavin Whelan. Myself and Gavin have a long interview to get through, but I can tell you it's definitely worth it. Gavin's enthusiasm cannot be matched. I can swear that, and his knowledge with the GAA. So we have an in-depth look at all games. So I won't go into the games myself, just to say that looking at the fixtures, I'm going to go for a Passage win against De La Salle, a Lismore win against Dunhill, Clonay win against 4 Mile, and I'm going to pick Tallow to beat Abbeyside, just based on Abbeyside's current fitness issues. So I'm going to go straight into Paul Carley's interview. I caught up with the Wexford native, who's from Glenbarntown, earlier on during the week, and this is what Paul had to say.
You're very welcome along, folks. We're here in a Passage East Hurling Club, a very scenic view. We currently have an under 7 blitz going on. There's a lot of noise out in the pitch, but I'm here with manager Paul Carley. Paul, how are you?
Good, Seamus, and yourself?
I'm not too bad. A little bit tired now. We're just talking off here about the old strain of hurling nowadays, and I'm certainly feeling it myself. But we'll get straight to it. You played for Wexford for 9 years, you were telling me there.
Yeah. Well, I was there for 9 years. I was sub-keeper for the first 4 or 5, and then 2 or 3 years out the field, and then unfortunately back to the bench, and eventually called time on it at 28 or 9, so I'm back to the club then and hurled for 3 or 4 years before injury took its toll.
And there's a big tradition in your family, of course, of hurling. You have a lot of brothers that played as well.
Yeah, there's 6 of us all together. I think there was 1 or 2 matches we all played the one game, but they would have all, if as far back as we can remember, getting into a high S, the 6 or 7 of us heading off to training or matches, so it's steeped in that really, and the father would have trained us the whole way up along. So
it's something obviously that's very important with all clubs, family down through it, and there's a great tradition here in Passage. How have you found the last 2 years in Passage so far?
Yeah, I found it really enjoyable. Last year was kind of a quick season because we didn't get back till late really with COVID, and unfortunately we got knocked out in the quarter final by Mount Sign by a point, which was disappointing. But coming back this year, you're back early and back training hard early. Again, the championship, which I like in Waterford, is being pushed out, and we knew we weren't going to be playing till the end of July, so you could get a lot of work done. I just see in Wexford now, we're playing our last group game in Waterford while Wexford are playing their county final the same day, so it's kind of a shame. In one way it's great if you're winning, but if you're gone, I see my own club are gone the 30th of July and they won't play again till probably next June.
And like looking at the structure of the championship, there's a lot of talk about the inter-county season starts first to give club players that time and break, but is there a balance, because club players still have to do a longer pre-season and fellas maybe get caught going on holidays and things like that?
Yeah, well, I kind of like the old system as when I was playing myself, that you had 2 games in April, because most clubs will go back January, February. At least you have 2 games in for in April, you can play them. Then you have some downtime as a club and let the inter-county go, and you come back. Because even this year what I would have found is June and July, a lot of interruptions regards weddings and holidays, and in fairness you can't say to lads you can't go on holidays, because probably 70% of club teams are made up now of school teachers, people married to school teachers, or students, so when do they get to go on holiday?
Yeah.
And what's really wrong with leaving June and July free for lads to do that and start your championship in August? You get it well finished. I even see with Wexford now, if they win on Sunday, I think they have a 10-week gap to the first round in Leinster.
Yes.
And you just can't maintain that. You won't come into Leinster Championship hurling well. But as well, if you just have a fella that's just pure hurling, he doesn't play for 10 weeks, or a fella that's gone out of the championship early doesn't play for
It's
9,
true.
10 months.
Clock Balacalla came through the Laois champions last year and knocked out the Wexford champions.
Yeah, and they bet them well, and it's not a fair reflection on the referees. It's just that they had 9 weeks. I think they got to the semi-final of football, so they had 7 weeks of football. So realistically, had 2 weeks to come back, and they probably had 5 or 6 that didn't do any football. So you're trying to do a lot of work in 2 weeks and get ready for that, and I just don't think it's possible.
Yeah, and I suppose looking forward then to this weekend, you face De La Salle. Of course, De La Salle were beaten. They suffered a heavy defeat to the hands of the All-Ireland champions last weekend, just gone. I was in at the game myself. The mood was very, very low in Welsh Park. It was over after a matter of minutes. Thoughts of what De La Salle you might face this weekend?
So look, we can't take anything from that game because it's not the real De La Salle, and you're kind of thinking to yourself, did they show their hand, did they not? But then the thing with Ballygunner is we found out ourselves that any slight mistake to punish you, and they're just relentless. They never let up. Usually a team might give you 10 or 15 minutes of a good spell, but they don't do that. And in fairness, De La Salle just found it hard to get their hands on the ball. We're expecting a completely different team regards this Sunday, because not that it's knockout championship, but it does hopefully give you somewhat of an easier draw, you'd imagine. But still, we won't take anything from that. We'll get ourselves right. Like this year, we focused a lot on ourselves regards. If we're at our best and we get bet, that's fair enough. If we're at our best and we win, happy days.
We've seen 2 clips with ClubberTv recently of Thomas Willie's specialty sidelines. They've been referenced all weekend in the 12 games that were shown. They were special, weren't they?
Yeah, I taught him all that, but sure.
I think it was George Henderson. I think it was George Henderson in fairness.
No, but in fairness to him, look at he's been good at him all the time. It's just, and especially doing the weather that he done him, and there were 2 vital points for us to try and stay in the game. But Thomas is capable of doing that. And one of them, he was actually injured, and we called him from the far side of the field to give him a rest, and he still put it over the bar. But
do you think it should be worth 2 points?
I think it's something you could look into, but I don't think it'll ever change really. But it is a special art and skill that not many people can do, and especially the ones outside the 45, how some lads put them over, they hit them like a free, and some lads are so good at them now that it is nearly a free.
Yeah, I seen Joe Canning return to club action last weekend, and he scored from outside 45, and the goal he got as well. It is a special talent, and we've seen, of course, Tony Kelly do it against Limerick in the injury moments in the Munster final this season just gone as well. But like we said, this weekend you faced De La Salle. Of course, you suffered defeat to Ballygunner in the first opening round as well. Have you managed to see any other championship games that were on the last 2 weeks?
I've seen a couple. I've seen Mount Sion, they looked very good against Abbeyside, was in the first round.
Yeah.
And I had a look at Rowan Moore yesterday, or was it Saturday?
Saturday, yeah.
Again, looking in fairness to the 4 teams that are more or less qualified, to the 4 teams in the semi-final last year, and they're probably showing the best form as it is at the moment. And what the benefit of that is, they get 2 weeks off. They're going to, of course, get 3, but and that's just the benefit of it. They're hurling well, they deserve to be there. And at the moment, you have to say they're the best 4 teams in Waterford. And
what would be the aspirations for passage? Obviously, get a win this weekend, but do you want to drive on past the last stages that you done last year, the quarter final?
Look, your goal is always to do better than you done last year. I thought we were lucky probably to be in the game against Mount Sion with a few minutes to go last year, and there were a couple of incidents that we could have won the game, but it would have been probably an injustice. But I think a lot of it is to improve on different things, and we've kind of developed a different way of hurling this year. And realistically, the first 2 games, lads just say, it was a group of death, but for me it's a great group because you're playing the All-Ireland champions and you're playing De La Salle, who are 2 well-established teams in Waterford. And even if you lose the 2 games, you're still going into knockout championship with 2 great games that you can play all the practice matches you want, but they don't give you that. So because you play other games whether you win or lose them, and you're playing teams you don't know how well you're going, but Ballygunner will tell you quick enough how well you're going. I'm sure De La Salle will do the same.
They sure will indeed. Look, it's been a pleasure to catch up with you, and we wish you all the best this weekend against De La Salle, Paul.
Thanks very much, Seamus.
And of course, that was the Passage manager, Paul Carley, which I was chatting to earlier on during the week. Paul gave me a great interview, I must say. It was great to spend some time with him, especially with the blitz going on outside. I also spoke to Gavin Whelan earlier on this week. Like I said, myself and Gavin went through a lot. We will be doing a ClubberTv action this weekend. Of course, we'll be doing the Passage and De La Salle game. I'll be on co-commentary, and I swear I'll try not to be too biased. But in all seriousness, I will do a good professional job. But I will be with Gavin. Of course, Gavin works for WLR as well as ClubberTv, and Gavin is a top commentator in the country. And I'm going to be going to his interview in a couple of moments. But again, as I mentioned, Elite Recovery. If you want a chance to win a 20% off voucher, get in contact with us on YouTube on our channel underneath this show once it goes out on Friday morning, and type in what club you're from to be with a chance of a 20% off voucher with Elite Recovery. And of course, this podcast is brought to you in association with ClubberTv. Not only does this podcast bring you closer to the action, but ClubberTv does also. And they'll be showing a lot of games this weekend from intermediate to senior. They'll have 4 senior games on this weekend, and there will also be some intermediate games. I'm also doing one game myself this Friday night. I'm doing Ballysaggart and Ballynamina in the Eastern Western Championship, and that is coming to you from Friday night. And also I'll be covering Erin's Own versus Mollerans in Dunhill at 3:30 on Saturday, and we will see what's in store for Sunday. So a busy schedule ahead. The sun is shining gloriously this weekend, so everyone get out and watch the games. As I said, this season is going to be over very quickly, so we'll make the most of it while we have it. Again, just like to say, if you want to get in contact with us, have a look at all our social media channels. We have Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. And of course, I'm going to go into Gavin's interview now, and this is an interview I really enjoyed. Like I said, Gavin has a lot of knowledge about the game, and also he is very quick off the mark, I must say. So I look forward to chatting to you all next week. Again, don't forget to go to clubbertv.ie or go to ClubberTv at Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook, and that will be to get all your subscription for this weekend's live games coming to you from ClubberTv, of course in association with the podcast I Loves My Club by. I'm going to pop straight into Gavin's interview, and then we're going to cut out to the outro. So from me, folks, this is all this week. I've been your host, Seamus Barry, and I will chat to you if you're listening online this weekend on ClubberTv. If not, folks, same time next week, next Friday, as we go for a preview for the senior quarterfinals in what will be round 4 of the Waterford Senior Hurling Championship. Take care, folks. You're very welcome along to I Love My Club by the podcast that brings you closer to hurling and camogie. And of course, this is in association with ClubberTv. I'm delighted to say I have the very familiar voice to the GA community in Waterford, and I assume around Ireland, Gavin Whelan. Gavin, welcome.
Thanks very much, Seamus. How are things?
I'm not too bad. Of course, everyone will know you from commentary, from ClubberTv, and also from WLR as well. And of course, you're a referee and you're playing. Where do you get the time?
Yeah, it's a good question, really, Seamus. It's all go at the minute. But look, sure, it's good to be back at it, really, and to take things now on all fronts, as they say. So yeah, sure. Look, you just try and put your hand to as many things as you can, and I suppose it's the nature of the GA and the nature of myself is I suppose sport and GA plays a big role. So yeah, delighted to be going. I don't know about going strong on all fronts, Seamus, but sure, look, we'll keep at it for as long as we can anyway, you know.
And I think as well, probably what helps is it's just kind of a 6-week period this year with the senior in terms of reporting and match duties. Kind of you know yourself, you can gear yourself up for 6 weeks and maybe then take a rest after. So it's not a drawn out like the old system, which is good for ourselves. But looking to last week, I know you were in attendance to some of the games that took place. We'll have a look at the Ballygunner De La Salle. Ballygunner, very flattering winners. Your thoughts on that game?
Yeah, again, Seamus, coming out of Welsh Park last Saturday, the question is there again, like who's going to stop Ballygunner from making it 9 in a row this season? They just look very composed, very well drilled, and really professional performance. Again, 14 points to 1 up at half time. I think it was game over. De La Salle really flat in that opening half, just scored the lone point, and that came from a 65 in the very first minute. I know Stephen O'Keefe made a very good save to deny Brian Cunningham. If that went in, it might have been a different game, but they just look very comfortable all over the field. And the player in the better position always gets the ball. That work right off the ball is there, and that energy is there. I don't know where they get it from each season, but it's there. I suppose it's in their DNA, it's in their culture, and I suppose Desi Hutchinson, deserves again special mention. I suppose we're run out of, I suppose, superlatives now, Seamus, when it comes to Desi. But 8 points, from play, he was just unremarkable last Saturday. And I know I was chatting to Darragh Sullivan afterwards, and he was mentioning that the quality ball, I suppose, he was getting in. But you still have to win it and round your man and put the ball over the bar as well. But it was just dazzling stuff, brilliant to watch. And the manner of the victory was probably maybe somewhat, I suppose, a lot of people mightn't have seen it, Seamus. I thought De La Salle may throw everything at this, and I know they were short one or two key players, and Ruben Halloran only come back from injury, came on, got a goal late on. I know they were short Jake Dillon and a few other guys, but not many would have predicted the manner of that Ballygunner victory. But it just goes to show that they're in no I suppose mood, I suppose, to give up that title yet, that drive and that determination is as strong as ever, and they're back in the quarter final now, and 3 more wins and they're county champions again. 45 games now, I think it is, unbeaten in Waterford Club Hurling, so it's a phenomenal record. And you have to say, they're the team to beat again, Seamus, this year.
Yeah, without doubt, and obviously, like everything that you've highlighted there, we've talked about many times. And I suppose with Desi, it's not just the quality of ball that comes in; it's the style and the manner which he goes about himself as well. He's one of them flair players you love to watch. But I suppose looking at that same group going to this weekend, a game that probably has relevance in terms of seedings going forward. Passage play De La Salle at 6:30. In Welsh Park. I know you're actually down for commentary, and I'm going to be joining you in the hot seat. I promise not to be biased now, of course. You can get that game on ClubberTv. But what's your thoughts for this weekend's clash between Passage and De La Salle?
Yeah, looking forward to that one, Seamus. Looking forward to having you on board for Saturday evening. I'm sure we'll have plenty of banter there in the commentary box. But in fairness to Passage, I thought they performed admirably against Ballygunner in round 1. It was a horrible evening for Hurling. They probably maybe left Ballygunner, I suppose, race into a bit of a lead and then rallied with a couple of scores. But Mark Fitzgerald is an up and coming young star. He's going to be a huge prospect going forward. You have the experience there with Thomas Connors there as well. And I know Noel missed the last game, so it'll be interesting to see whether he'd be back the next day. I think Passage, you need a full deck really when you're going to be taking on De La Salle. I'm sure De La Salle in training during the week they'll have got, I'm sure, a few choice words from Ian Flynn and Duck O'Rourke and the management team, because they know that's not the De La Salle team we associate with with performances in the championship last weekend, and even going back to last year they had to rely on beating Ballysaggart in a relegation game to stay up seniors. So they'll know that wasn't good enough last weekend. When you have leaders like Kevin Moore, Eddie Barrett and Paddy Nevin and these guys, I know those guys are around a long time as well, but Shane McNulty, Jack Fagan, these guys, you'd be expecting maybe a little bit more from them this weekend. Sean O'Brien even in the goal to kind of pick things up, and their leaders to stand up. So I'm expecting both teams to go at it hell for leather. Usually not much between the teams. Let's say they probably haven't met in a while. Let's say Seamus in the championship. Actually, can't remember now offhand when was the last time they actually did meet in the senior championship. But
De La Salle beat them last time by a point in a quarter final, and Ballygunner went on to beat De La Salle in a semi final about 4 years ago, I think.
Yeah. Again, there's not much to choose between them. It's in Welsh Park. Both sides, they know the ground pretty well. They know each other pretty well as well, and I'm sure Ian Flynn and Paul Carley will have their homework done one another. But I'm sure from the La Salle and Passage's point of view, they'll be hoping to just get a performance, I suppose, first and foremost, Seamus, because they'll feel they didn't play up to their potential against Ballygunner. Now that's, I suppose, easier said than done when you're taking on the might of the Gunners. But they know they have a playoff coming around the corner. Confidence is going to be huge going into that. So both these teams are going to be gunning for the victory. I just think maybe De La Salle, if they get their house in order and get their homework done, they may shade it if they perform, but they'll have to up it, by 80-90% from last again, because they were nowhere near, I suppose, the championship pace, first of all, and they'll really have to up it. But, Passage, they're a proud club, they bring plenty of energy, they're a championship team as well, they'll always give it everything, and it's going to be tight, but a sneaky feeling maybe De La Salle might edge it, James, but again, very hard to call.
We'll definitely have plenty of banter. Like we said, ClubberTv 6:30 this Saturday evening in Welsh Park promises to be a mouth-watering clash. And like I said, I'll try not to be too biased when it comes to my opinion Saturday evening. Looking to the second group, I suppose, Group 2, Mount Sion out in front, being exceptional in the first 2 games.
Yeah, they have really impressive. 221 to 11 points last week against Tallow. Again, I suppose had the benefit of the game against Abbeyside and carried in that form, Seamus, right from the get go. Again, looked to me like a really well organised, well drilled team, and to me at the minute they are the best placed team to challenge Ballygunner and knock Ballygunner off that perch if they are to be knocked off. Just playing with confidence, playing for one another, and just their hurling. It's sharp. It's really, really crisp. They're finding one another, and they just breeze through Tallow. It was a really disappointing display by Tallow, who so they tried to bring a bit of physicality to the table too with Mount Sion, and ended up getting a few yellow cards. And Mount Sion were just too cute for him, too pacey, and again, Austin Gleeson went off with a hip injury, but he was after nailing a couple of big scores. But other guys, then Austin's brother Jamie stood up to the plate. Stephen Roach, 6 points in play. It's one of the best displays I've ever seen him in a Mount Sion jersey. Seamus, he just ran the show in the middle of the field. He was just everywhere, and it was a baking hot day in Fairfield last week. Probably going to be what the temperatures are going to be like again this weekend, but he was everywhere. As I said, Alan Kerwin again, he really lit up the show up front. He got a great goal. He's not the biggest man in the world, but he's as tough as nails, and he's hardy, and he's really coming to fruition there. And you've the two O'Neills, Martin Fisher O'Neill and Martin O'Neill, Owen Whelan, again very impressive, and Luke O'Brien. And I thought PJ Fanning in defence were absolutely rock solid as well. Read the play really well, and then you've Iggy in the goal. I suppose the wily old fox, I suppose, that is Iggy, still going strong, able to pick out players. So just hurling really, really well at the minute. Seamus, and it's another big victory. They put up a similar score the previous week against Abbeyside. So they're in the quarter-final, I suppose, without having been really tested, a bit like Ballygunner. But look, that's where they want to be. And John Meany and company, they're building really, really nicely at the moment,
Would it be fair to say, like, I look at some of the groups here, we'll get to Romore's group in a second, but Ballygunner don't have to play this weekend qualified. Romore don't have to play this weekend qualified. Mount Sion don't have to. Is it like a bit of a running team here that it seems the teams who played first were in better position? I know it sounds easy, but it looks like they were in better position to play their second game. So I think that's maybe the interesting point, that, like you said earlier, Delasal and Passage haven't put in a performance yet. They both played the All-Ireland champions. We're looking at Mount Sion's group. Of course, Abbeyside are going to play Tallow. You could say neither team put in a performance yet. So I suppose it's a lot for the teams this weekend to kind of come out and prove themselves. Same, we'll go to Romore's group in a second, and of course Dungarvan's group at the end. But it looks like the second and third teams have a lot to play for this weekend.
Yeah, they certainly have. You want to be, I suppose, getting that victory, getting that confidence, I suppose, ahead of a big playoff game the following weekend. There's obviously a lot of niggles in a few camps as well, some more so than others. And I suppose if you don't have the strength and depth like a Ballygunner or maybe a Mount Sion, perhaps one or two niggles, you could be in trouble. The ground at the minute, Seamus, I know for myself being out in it and trying to play and referee as well, like it's absolutely rock hard at the minute too. So it's very, very easy to pick up a niggle, and you have only a week or maybe 2 weeks. It's a very short turnaround, given, I suppose, it depends on the nature of the injury. So it is important this weekend for those teams to try and get, I suppose, points on the board and get a victory or get some sort of a result heading into a playoff, because, second and third, that's what these clubs are going to be eyeing now. They know they have one big shot at it the following week. So I'd expect a bit of spice in a lot of the games this weekend, and 4 really, really, really big battles down for decision, and really sets it up nicely then for the following weekend. And I know we'll have the draw after the Abbeyside Tallow game on Sunday, so there'll be a lot of eyes on that. But yeah, to go back to your original point, I think the teams that played that first round, you could just see probably were a little bit sharper in terms of their hurling and their, not necessarily fitness, but just that match sharpness. You can play all the challenge games you want, but it comes to the White Heat Championship, it's hard to beat it, and that's given, I suppose, Ballygunner, Mount Sion, Romore, and Dungarvan, you could argue too, were very, very close to being in the quarterfinal. Had Patrick Kern nailed that free at the end last again, Clonea got a deserved draw, to be fair to him. So they were the teams, I suppose, who had all played in round one, and very, very nearly all 4 of them nearly made the last 8. So yeah, it's swings and roundabouts really, but definitely think having that game after round one going into the second round, whereas Delasal and those teams who are just coming in for their first game maybe caught a little bit on the cold side, And
it's interesting that you say, to pick up on the point of Patrick Curran. Everyone's obviously seen it now, and everyone's talking about it. But the thing I would reference is, if many people cast their minds back to 2007, kind of 2007-2008 season, Henry Shefflin missed the 21 against Waterford in the league final up in Thurles. Now,
right,
Patrick was just outside the 21, but I mean Henry was bang on the 21. He put it wide, and I remember when I was watching a clip of Patrick, and everyone saying, "How could he do it?" Well, if Henry Shefflin managed to do it, I think Patrick could be saved a few graces. But it's definitely one he probably rues now. But looking at, of course, the Romore group, the last game, Abbeyside and Tallow in Group 2. Just quickly, how do you see that going in Mount Sion's group?
Yeah, it's very, very interesting. I suppose two Western rivals going at it. They've had some great battles over the years. Seamus up in Fairfield, so the two teams would know each other pretty well as well. I know Abbeyside there with Neil Moore, who's the county vice chairman. Of course, he's principal up there in Tallow National School, where Tommy Ryan is teaching and all that. So I'm sure there's plenty of banter amongst those guys during the week. And again, it's very, very hard to call. Tallow would be bitterly disappointed with the way they performed last weekend. Dennis Welch is back at the helm there, and I know they were reasonably happy with preparations going into it, but just on the day, Mount Sion got a run on them, and they just found it hard to get going. Could have played Tommy Ryan inside in the full forward on his own for a lot of the game, and Mount Sion just sat bodies back there and they read the script. So maybe they're going to have to come up with a different game plan. I thought Mark O'Brien at fullback, he's a great warrior. Again, he battled really, really hard, in fairness to him. And Jordan Henley, in fairness, will always give it 110%, as will Kieran Geary and Ian Beecher and these guys. So, I'm expecting a big performance from them on Sunday. Abbeyside remains to be seen. Injury concerns in their camp. Neil Montgomery possibly maybe back. I'm not too sure, depending on the extent of his injury. Conor Prunty remains to be seen whether he'll be fit again. And young Shawnee Callahan, I'm hearing during the week as well, it's probably not good news with that knee injury that he sustained against Mount Sion in round 1, so just waiting to hear the prognosis of that, but it looks like he could be sitting out for the forthcoming couple of weeks, which would be a huge loss. He's a really good young talent. He got 2 points against Mount Sion in the first half, and I suppose nobody likes to see a young player getting injured, so I suppose we're wishing Shawnee a speedy recovery there with that injury. But depending on the availability of Prunty and Montgomery, they're two huge players for Abbeyside, but they're a seasoned team too, and they have plenty of experience there, like with Mark Ferncombe and these guys, Pudge Hurney up front, and I suppose they will be expecting a big performance. But it's very, very hard to call. It depends on what team. I suppose Abbeyside have had the week off last weekend. They've had a chance to regroup, and maybe if they get their positions right, and if they show the hunger, I suppose, and show the determination and hurling that they are capable of definitely beating Tallow. But again, very, very hard to call. It's all on the day, really. It's going to be a scorcher, I believe, on Sunday afternoon against Seamus. So the weather conditions, that heat is going to be really, really tough on the players. But very, very hard to call. If there is going to be a draw this weekend, I think this could be the game where the spoils could be shared.
Yeah, I think, like you said, I think that's going to be probably the closest game in terms of score of the weekend. Looking to Group 3, of course, Peter Quealy's Sky Blue are charging. At the moment, they had a very impressive win against Dunhill last week, and more so is what they probably weren't doing in years gone by was closing out games. And the Lismore game got very cagey near the end, but they showed their experience, used their heads, managed to pull away in the latter stages. Impressed with Peter's charges so far?
Yeah, you'd have to be. Seamus definitely. Put up 4-13 again last week. It was a very good score. They're working the goals really well as well. I know that's something Peter alluded to. I was chatting to him after last weekend, that they came from a couple of turnovers as well, and they put Dunhill, I suppose, to the sword pretty early. The newly promoted Dunhill side, of course, just found it going tough. And again, Runmore had the benefit of that Lismore game the previous week, but they were well taken goals. And you've a lot of youngsters coming into that team now. Ethan Flynn and Keane Wadding, Lee Hearn and Conor Ryan all finding the net. I suppose players have come through very good underage teams over the last couple of seasons, so they're beginning out to step up to the plate in that team. And you've plenty of leaders there as well, with Gavin O'Brien still going strong there, Brian Nolan in the middle of the field, hurled a lot of ball, and Frank McGrath, of course, at full back, Jack Chester in the goal, very, very comfortable as well. So again, all around the field, typical Peter Quealy team. The work ethic is there, the energy is there, and the game realistically, James, was over at half time really. I know the second half Rowan wouldn't be happy with. Dunhill actually won the second half, 1-5 to 5 points. Eamon Murphy got that penalty for Dunhill, and what was a difficult evening for them. But Rowan Moore, I suppose the game was over, and sometimes it's hard to, I suppose, maintain that pace for 60 minutes. So they'll know, I suppose, that they've 2 weeks now to get things right. I'm sure they'll get any little niggles they have to get them right, and no team will want to draw Rowan in the quarter final. They obviously reached the county final last year, didn't play to their potential on the day, but I suppose then again weren't allowed against Ballygunner. But they're brimming along nicely, and they're going really well, and a bit like Mount Sion, just hurling with huge confidence at the minute. So they'll be happy. They're in a good place, and as I said, Seamus, they'll be keen to get back into another county final this year.
What about the two remaining? Obviously, we've mentioned injuries earlier. Lismore have been hampered massively. Dunhill, I know, have lost the services of one or two players who were unavailable this year due to one or another reason. Probably the two panels, without being disrespectful, that can afford to have injuries or lose players.
Definitely. Yeah, and I was chatting to Cork Daly up in Lismore and working at a cool camp this week up in Lismore there. So there's plenty of debate going on. The heat up there is absolutely unreal. But look, we're surviving anyway, as the fella says, and they are stretched. There's no point denying that. Or I suppose everybody knows I suppose numbers, they're not blessed with a massive panel of players, and obviously the two dailies. Cork, I understand, is probably not going to play this weekend. Irla, his brother, is still, I suppose, in recuperation. He's back doing a small bit of running, I believe, but it remains to be seen whether he'll be fit to line out. Mara Shannon has that hand injury as well. It's hard to see him being ready for this weekend, or do you risk him in a round 3 game, knowing that you have a big playoff coming up the following Saturday or Sunday? So that's the debate for Lismore. But they're still a proud club, and Fintan O'Connor, 11 well marshalled, well tuned in, and they put up a very credible performance against Rowan Moore. If you look at it, there was only a point in that game, Seamus, with maybe 3 or 4 minutes to go, and Rowan Moore hit them for 2 late goals and just finished that bit stronger. But they'll bring plenty of energy and bring plenty of hurling to the table, and when you've Dan Shannon at the edge of the square as well, he's going to set panic in any defence, isn't he? Really, got a great point the last day, won a penalty. So Oisin O'Gorman got 4 points in play the last day. They have youngsters coming through as well, and they're kind of in, I suppose, a period of transition and trying to maybe rebuild. But one would expect, from what I've seen so far, Seamus, that Lismore may have just a little bit too much hurling for Dunhill, but having said that, Dunhill, they'll have Park last weekend, and I suppose that's the benefit of that you have a quick enough turnaround. They got back into Horseshoes the night, I'm sure, at training, and it's a quick turnaround. You have no time for resting or reflecting really on things. It's the benefit, I suppose, of this championship, that the games are coming thick and fast, that you have a chance to get things right literally straight away. So I'm sure they'd have been back working hard during the week, and they will come and give it everything on Sunday. But I just think maybe there's more experience, maybe too much, and they might just shade this one. But again, I'm expecting Dunhill to really, I suppose, come out all guns blazing, but maybe just Lismore might have too much in the tank. Jack Prendergast, of course, as well. Forgot to mention him. Really led by example. Last day, the intercounty man, he's been a great, I suppose, leader for Lismore. Still very, very young, plenty of pace, plenty of energy, but they'd get my nod in this one, Seamus, at 2:00 in Fairfield on Sunday.
Yeah, I would agree with everything you said there. I suppose looking to the last group then, the team for me that really surprised last weekend was Clonea. Now, I know Dungarvan are sitting with 3 points currently, and Clonea have a point. Of course, Clonea play 4 Mile Water this weekend, but everyone expected, I suppose, just from evidence last year, Dungarvan would have reached the semi-final. Maybe disappointed not to get to a final. I chatted to Peter Smith 2 weeks ago. Clonea were not expected to come in and get the result, and bear in mind, Clonea could actually win the game.
It could have, and I was chatting to Gary Moran after the game as well, and I suppose it was kind of mixed emotions, really, disappointment, and at the end of it, maybe a sense of relief, and I suppose, I don't know what you say, satisfaction, but satisfaction in the fact, you've got a point against a highly rated Dungarvan side, and in your first game of the championship, they haven't, I suppose, played round 1 the previous week. So I again would agree with yourself there, James. Was very impressed with Clonea's work rate and fitness levels. Their off the ball movement. It did take them a while to get up to the pitch of it, but I think James Power's goal before half time, they went in a point down. It gave them that bit of impetus, and they, to be honest, they bossed a lot of that second half. They hit over scores. Billy Power came into it. Martine Power, in defence there, marshalled it well. Michael Curry, I thought, worked phenomenally hard in the centre of the field. Jason Gleeson, I think he ended with 14 points on the day, mainly from frees, but he put over frees from all angles. And I suppose, Kieran Kerwin and Kieran Power and these guys, they all came to the fore in the second half when they needed them to stand up, and Francis Roach, another good young player coming off the bench there, he chipped in with a point. So they were really in a strong position, 5 points up, and I suppose Dungarvan got a bit of energy then from the fact that 7 minutes of injury time were announced, and they kind of maybe woke up and realised, right, that's maybe we can get something out of this game. And obviously Patrick nailed 2 points, and Michael Kiley got that goal to level it, which maybe could have been maybe saved by Stephen Power. He was maybe anticipating a bullet of a shot, and just snuck past him from Michael Kiley, who ended with 1-3. Again, he's hurling really well for Dungarvan, and obviously they could have scored then with Patrick's late effort, but it just sailed wide, which I suppose we all would have were nearly writing it down to say that was going to be Dungarvan, to sneak a 1 point win. But look, from Clonae's point of view, they'd be delighted with that. And 119 apiece were definitely the game of the weekend last weekend in terms of closeness and hurling as well. So Clonae, again, would be very, very happy. I suppose the only, black note on the copybook was the injuries to Kieran Power and Connor Dalton, and again, not knowing the extent of those injuries, it remains to be seen whether those players will be available for this weekend. They're two huge players for Clonae, particularly Dalton, of course, who was on the Waterford panel this year and played 2 league games, and is a confidence player as well. So you just hope that that they're not too serious from Clonae's point of view. But was really impressed with him. Hurling really well, worked really, really hard, and certainly put it up to Dungarvan. But certainly you'd have to be impressed with Clonae and what they brought to the table last weekend, Seamus, definitely, yeah.
I think, to be fair as well to James Fair, I watched it back a good few times. You can see he just goes to take a step to his left, like you said. He anticipates that ball to be hit across his body, which, in fairness, 90% of attackers will do. But I've been saying it from a young age, watching Paul Flynn, Joe Canning, Henry Shefflin, always come to the near post, whatever post you're at, go to, because the keeper is never expecting it. And you've seen Kiley probably didn't connect with it as well, but it's because where he put the ball, James anticipated he was going across, moved, and it was just a half yard caught him off guard. And for any youngster, a young boy or young girl watching, it's a brilliant way to finish the ball, is to always go to the nearest post to you. But James is very unlucky with that one. Clonae then obviously play 4 Mile Water this weekend, of course. I was going to chat to Michael Ryan, but we said we'd leave it to next week. Michael is, of course, busy with his day job and he's working with building sites. So myself and Michael were in contact. But he said he is looking forward to this weekend's game. But you would have to say, based on first opening round performances, it should be Clonae that will be coming in with a lot of confidence.
Yeah, definitely. Saw 4 Miler first night, and I think they were really, really flat. And I actually was talking to Michael Ryan in the aftermath of that game, and again, it was just, I suppose, he was bitterly disappointed with the their flatness on the night, and they were just kind of really blown out of it by Dungarvan, particularly in that second half, and they'll be, they've had 2 weeks now to, I suppose, dust themselves down and get the bodies right. And the last time these two teams met, I think Seamus, subject to correction, I think Clonae actually beat 4 Mile Water in the championship. I think it was a relegation semi-final or relegation dogfight a couple of years ago. So, Clonae won't fear playing 4 Mile Water. There's no doubt about that. They will relish this challenge. It's a quick turnaround, from last Sunday to Saturday evening, particularly with those two niggles. No, they probably wouldn't have done much during the week. It's nearly more so about mental recovery, more so than actually, the heavy stuff and all that is kind of done. It's just, I suppose, light puck around and a bit of shooting practice during the week. But I think Clonae have every chance here, and they'll know themselves too. I think it is if they win, is it, James, by 8 points or more, maybe possibly.
They can top the table, yeah.
Yeah, they could top the table, and then all of a sudden they're in a county quarter final, and they've the week off the following week, and they have a chance to get these guys, right for a quarter final, possibly, 2 weeks after that or a week after that. So I'm sure that'll be in the back of their minds as well. But they'll be, first of all, wanting to bring, I suppose, the same energy as they did last week, and really challenge 4 Mile Water. But 4 Mile, I know them, I know a lot of their guys quite well, and Jim Byrne and these guys and Conor Gleeson. They'd be bitterly disappointed with the way they performed against Dungarvan. It was untypical, I suppose, of 4 Mile. There seemed to be a lack of energy there and a lack of maybe communication around the field. So I'm sure there are areas they'll have worked on, and they'll want to bring that to the table next Saturday evening, because they won't want to suffer another defeat and go into a playoff the following week. Because let's not forget, I suppose, they were in a quarter final last year, and went toe to toe with Ballygunner for maybe 45, 46 minutes, and then the Gunners maybe just finished the game a little bit stronger. So I know they have lost a few players. Shane Ryan and Michael's son has gone away, and they're probably maybe one or two youngsters both step into the plate who will take a while to get up to senior level. But it'll be very, very interesting. Again, this has the makings of a really good game. I'm sure it's going to draw a big crowd too. I suppose, neighbouring rivals too, there in 4 Mile Water and Clonae, and from the Iron Rock on the footballers, there's a bit of rivalry there. There should be a bit of energy and a bit of spice.
Yeah, that's certainly right. Just I was saying to off air earlier on, in terms of what team we've gone through each team there, but if you could give me one team that currently is standing out, who would you say is your standout performer so far?
Sorry, James.
So, Gavin, we were just chatting off the air, before we came on, and I said to you I'd have a few questions to put you. So, I want one I know it's hard, but one sentence, one team. Who's the team that's impressed you out of the championship so far?
Yeah, well, look, I know. I suppose the easy answer here is probably say Ballygunner, but it is the answer, Seamus. To be honest, you have to just admire the way they go about their business, week in, week out, and the energy, the way in the warm up, the subs up in the stand, the encouragement they give one another, and it's just a really, I suppose, professional environment there. And it's even chatting to Dara afterwards. I was asking him about Stephen O'Keefe's save in the first half from Brian Cunningham, and he mentioned that yeah, it was a good save, but he'd be disappointed with the one he conceded from Ruben Halloran late on. So it's just those areas. It's straight away on the things that you can work on rather than, I suppose, the positives of where you can improve during the week. So just going about their business really, really shrewdly. Like Shane O'Sullivan looks as fit as ever, even in the half backline there, just really, really manning that half backline fill up is flying. Levy and Sheehan they're the best midfield partnership in the country, really, for me, to be honest. And just up front, their movement, Desi's movement last week, you touched on it earlier, it's just his footwork, his ability to lose defenders and jinx this way and then go left and go right. It's just beautiful to watch. Patrick Fitzgerald coming into the fray there, another point last week. This guy is a top player, and it's just that strength and depth, and their intermediates are going well as well. Their junior A's are in a knockout game this weekend as well. So it's just that conveyor belt of talent is there. And to me, again, they've been the top team in the 2 rounds so far. But they'll know themselves. They'll want to keep improving, and they have a quarter final coming up. They'll be gearing themselves up for that. But just based on that, like movement and fluidity, and that it's just brilliant to watch.
Yeah, and I suppose if we're to take Ballygunner away, and I know everyone talks about this, and the championship would be a lot closer without Ballygunner, but that's not Ballygunner's fault. But if you were to pick a dark horse out of the remaining 11, who would it be to challenge Ballygunner this year?
Yeah, look, it's very, very interesting. Like you'd be expecting maybe a bit more from De La Salle. Last weekend, they'll have to show significant improvement. I think Mount Sion row more, maybe row more again. I know they wouldn't necessarily be a dark horse because they got to the county final last year, but they are probably the 2 teams below them. I suppose Abbeyside, with the injuries they have maybe on their day, could well challenge. Like you can't rule out Dungarvan either. I know they've lost a few from last year. But Dara Lyons and Patrick Kernan, these guys, Michael Kiley, when Gavin Crotty is an experienced player, Jamie Nagle is hurling really well for them as well, like vastly experienced players. So if they get their top players, playing well and playing with confidence, like they really pushed Romore all the way last year. I know they were bitterly disappointed coming out of Welsh Park that afternoon. Were maybe somewhat overconfident going into it, and Rowan Moore, on the day, in fairness to them, they deserved their victory. They were the hungrier team, so wouldn't rule out Dungarvan yet having a say, but they want to show significant. They want to show, I suppose, significant improvement over the next couple of weeks. But it's hard to nail down a particular team. But I think maybe somebody like Dungarvan, Rowan Moore, don't rule them out. Possibly maybe Clonea, who knows as well, if they get going, if they got past the weekend and got into that quarter final, who knows, on any given day, who knows the nature of this championship, James, the games are coming thick and fast, and you get a few niggles or a bit of luck on the day, anything can happen. But it's interesting. It's interesting, but at the minute, Ballygunner are the front runners, and as you said, deservedly so. It's not their fault that they're 45 games unbeaten in Waterford, and I'm sure they'll be hoping that trend continues for another while to come.
Yeah, no doubt at all. I think it will, to be honest. But so just looking back on we can check back in at the end of the season. But we said Ballygunner, of course, that's who we have out in front, and you've referenced Dungarvan, Romore, Mount Sion. For this weekend's predictions, of course, Gavin has gone with De La Salle to beat Passage, Lismore to come out on top against Dunhill, Abbeyside just to shade it against Tallow, but can go either way, and we're expecting a Clonea win against 4 Mile. Anyone that's listening, of course, if you want to put your own prediction in, you can fire away on our YouTube channel at I Loves My Club By, or you can check us out on Instagram or Twitter. Of course, this game that we mentioned, Passage versus De La Salle, will be live, just like all our other games, available on ClubberTv this weekend. And Gavin, of course, will be taking the main mic in Welsh Park from 6:30. Of course, he'll be on air just a few minutes beforehand to go through your teams. And I am delighted to say I will have the pleasure of sitting beside Gavin to commentate the match to David Sutton, my good friend from De La Salle. I promise not to be too biased. I know I'm expecting a text off him soon when I mentioned that I'm doing the game, but it's one I'm really looking forward to. There's a lot of games available. There's a couple of knockout games, as Gavin referenced in the Junior A this weekend, and also there's an intermediate clash which sees down in the east Erin's own face Mollerns, which is available from 3:30 on ClubberTv as well. Gavin, it has been an absolute pleasure to chat to you. You have a fountain of GAA knowledge, especially within the club scene in Waterford, and I've no doubt that you love your club, Colligan, and it's been a pleasure to chat to you, and I look forward to talking to you on Saturday.
Looking forward to it, Seamus. See you Saturday evening. Yeah, looking forward to another bumper weekend of action. And sure, look, best of luck to all the clubs and the match officials. And I suppose, who knows, I think we may have to maybe reintroduce the water breaks just for one weekend, only, Seamus.
I think so indeed. Gavin, mind yourself. Talk to you soon.
Pleasure. Thanks a million, Seamus.
Wherever you're listening, whether it be Ballyduff or Ballygunner, Passage or Portlaw, Dungarvan or Dunhill, tune in to I Love My Club By, the podcast that brings you closer to camogie and hurling in the Waterford club scene. Don't forget, hurling is our passion.